I'm Sarah, and I called the police in the middle of my own wedding ceremony. Not because of cold feet, not because I changed my mind about the man I was marrying, but because 3 days before that wedding, his family locked me in a room, held me down, and violated me in the name of tradition. And I recorded every single second of it. I wore white that day, a custom gown with lace sleeves and a cathedral train. I had fresh roses woven into my hair. I smiled for the photographer. I hugged guests I'd never met. I held my fiancé's hand as we stood at the altar in front of 200 people. And when the officiant asked if anyone objected to this union, I raised my hand. Then I pressed play. The audio that came out of my phone wasn't music. It wasn't a love song or a surprise message. It was my voice, shaking with fear, saying, "This is assault. You're assaulting me." And it was his mother's voice, cold and satisfied, responding, "Lie still. This is tradition." That recording destroyed a family. It ended a wedding. It launched a criminal investigation. And it started a movement. But let me take you back to the beginning, because this story doesn't start with revenge. It starts with a love. Or at least what I thought was love. I met Arjun Mehta at a medical conference in Chicago on a rainy October afternoon. I was 26, finishing my final year of nursing school, exhausted from back-to-back clinical rotations, and surviving on cold brew and ambition. He was 29, a fourth-year surgical resident with hands that moved like they understood exactly how fragile and powerful the human body could be. We met at a panel on trauma care. I asked a question about triage protocols in understaffed ERs. He answered, then found me afterward in the hallway. "That was a good question," he said, smiling in this quiet, self-assured way that made my stomach flip. "You work in emergency?" "Not yet. Still in school, but that's the goal." "You'll be great at it," he said, like he could see my future just by looking at me. We got coffee, then dinner, then breakfast the next morning. He told me about growing up in Edison, New Jersey, in a tight-knit Gujarati community where everyone knew everyone's business. He told me about the pressure to be perfect. Perfect grades, perfect career, perfect son. He told me he loved surgery because it was the one place where perfection actually mattered, where steady hands could mean the difference between life and death. I told him about growing up in San Antonio, the daughter of Mexican immigrants who cleaned houses and worked construction to put me through school. I told him about the weight of being the first in my family to go to college, the guilt of wanting more than my parents ever had, the fear that I'd never be enough. He listened like my words mattered. We fell fast. Long distance for 3 months, Chicago to Newark, FaceTime calls that stretched past midnight, weekend flights that cost more than I could afford but felt worth every cent. When I graduated, I moved to New Jersey. I got a job at the same hospital where he worked. We fell into a rhythm. Morning shifts, late-night takeout, stolen moments between his surgeries and my rounds. His friends liked me. My friends loved him. It felt inevitable. And then he introduced me to his family. The first dinner at the Mehta house was in early spring. Their home was in a wealthy suburb of Edison, a 2-story colonial with a manicured lawn and a circular driveway. Inside, it smelled like incense and spices I couldn't name. The walls were covered in framed photos. Arjun as a baby, Arjun in a cap and gown, Arjun receiving awards. His mother, Kavita, greeted me at the door. She was small and elegant, wearing a silk salwar kameez in deep purple. She hugged me, held my face in her hands, and said, "So beautiful." Arjun didn't exaggerate. I blushed. His father, Rakesh, was tall and quiet, with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He shook my hand but didn't smile. His grip was firm, assessing. Arjun's younger sister, Priya, was sweet, a college sophomore studying pre-med, bubbly and warm in a way that put me at ease. Dinner was elaborate, dishes I didn't recognize but tried to compliment. Kavita watched me eat, correcting my grip on the roti, showing me the proper way to mix the dal. "You'll learn," she said, with a smile that felt more like a warning. Rakesh asked about my family. "They're in Texas," I said. "My dad works construction, my mom does housekeeping." A pause. "Hard-working people," Rakesh said. His tone was neutral, but something about the way he said it made me feel small. Kavita asked about my education, my career plans, my faith. "I was raised Catholic," I said, "but I'm not super religious." Another pause. Arjun was raised Hindu, Kavita said. We respect all faiths, of course, but family traditions are very important to us. I nodded. Arjun squeezed my hand under the table. After dinner, while Kavita and Priya cleared dishes, Rakesh asked Arjun to help him with something in the garage. I was left alone in the living room. I looked at the photos on the mantel, Arjun's childhood, his accomplishments, his family's history. There were no photos of outsiders, no partners, no friends who didn't look like them. Just family. I should have paid attention to that. Arjun proposed 4 months later. We were hiking in the Catskills on a Saturday morning in June. The trail was steep, the air thin and clean. At the summit, with the valley spread out below us like a postcard, he got down on one knee. The ring was his grandmother's, a gold band with a small ruby. I know it's fast, he said, but I've never been more sure of anything. I said yes. I meant it. The engagement party was 2 weeks later, held at a banquet hall in Edison that could seat 300 people. Kavita had planned everything: the decor, the guest list, the food, even my outfit, a red and gold lehenga she'd picked out and had tailored without asking my size. It fit perfectly. I felt like a doll. The party was overwhelming. Aunties I'd never met kissed my cheeks and commented on my skin, my hair, my weight. Uncles asked Arjun when we'd have children, laughing like it was a foregone conclusion. Kavita introduced me to everyone as Arjun's bride. Not his fiancé, his bride. Like the decision had already been made, like I'd already been absorbed. During the speeches, Rakesh stood and spoke in Gujarati. I didn't understand the words, but I understood the tone. Formal, proud, possessive. Arjun translated bits and pieces for me later. He said you were a good match, that you'd be a credit to the family. A credit? It's a compliment. It sounds like a performance review. Arjun laughed, but I didn't. That night, after the party, Kavita pulled me aside. You'll move in with us after the wedding, she said. Not a question, a statement. We haven't talked about that yet, I said carefully. It's our tradition. The wife lives with her husband's family until they're ready to buy a home. I have my own apartment and my job. You can commute, Kavita said, smiling in that way that didn't reach her eyes. Family comes first, Sarah. You'll learn. Arjun was across the room, laughing with cousins. I wanted him to step in, to say something, to draw a line. But he didn't even look over. The next few weeks were a slow erosion. Kavita started calling me daily, asking about wedding plans I hadn't been consulted on, telling me which vendors to use, which colors to choose, which traditions were non-negotiable. You'll wear red for the ceremony. White is for funerals in our culture. The reception will be vegetarian. Rakesh's side of the family doesn't eat meat. You'll need to learn the prayers. We'll have a small puja before the wedding. I tried to bring Arjun into these conversations. Your mom is planning everything without asking me. She's just excited. She's steamrolling me. Sarah, this is how Indian weddings work. The groom's family takes the lead. It's traditional. But it's my wedding too. He sighed. Can you just go with it? For me? That phrase became a refrain. Can you just go with it? When Kavita criticized the way I dressed, when she made comments about my work schedule, when she suggested I should quit my job after we got married to focus on family. Arjun never stood up for me. He just asked me to go with it. 3 weeks before the wedding, Kavita invited me to lunch, just the two of us. I thought maybe it was an olive branch, a chance to bond. I was wrong. We met at a quiet Indian restaurant in Jersey City. Kavita was already seated when I arrived, dressed impeccably in a cream-colored kurta, her hair pulled back in a sleek bun. She smiled as I sat down. She ordered for both of us without asking what I wanted. We made small talk. The wedding, the weather, my job. And then, halfway through the meal, she slid a folded piece of paper across the table. What's this? I asked. An appointment, she said, her voice calm and even, for next Tuesday. I unfolded it. It was a booking confirmation, a clinic I'd never heard of, a doctor's name I didn't recognize. I don't understand, I said slowly. I'm not sick. Kavita leaned forward, her hands folded neatly on the table. "It's a purity exam," she said, like it was nothing, like she was discussing a dress fitting. "A formality. All the women in our family go through it before marriage." The air left my lungs. "A what?" "A virginity test." She said it like it was nothing, like she was discussing a dress fitting. "It's tradition. The family needs assurance." I stared at her. "That's not legal," I said quietly, "and it's not medical. It's assault." Her face didn't change. "You're going to be part of this family, Sarah, and in this family we follow our customs. If you want to marry my son, you'll do this." "Does Arjun know about this?" She smiled, a cold, satisfied smile. "Of course he knows. He agrees." My hands were shaking. "I'm not doing it." Kavita's smile vanished. "Then the wedding is off." "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. If you refuse, Arjun will call it off. Do you understand? You'll humiliate him, ruin his reputation, his career, all because you're too proud to respect our traditions." She leaned back, studying me like I was a problem to be solved. "You have until Monday to decide." She stood, placed cash on the table, and walked out. I sat there for 20 minutes, staring at that piece of paper. I called Arjun the second I got to my car. He answered on the third ring. "Hey, babe, how was lunch?" "Did you know your mother wants me to take a virginity test?" Silence. "Arjun, answer me." It's just a formality, Sarah. It doesn't mean anything." My vision blurred. "It means everything. It means you think you own my body before we're even married." "It's not about me. It's for my parents." "Then tell them no." "I can't." "Why not?" His voice cracked. "Because they'll disown me, Sarah. Do you understand that? They'll cut me off. Financially, emotionally, I'll lose everything." "And what about me?" My voice was shaking. "What do I lose?" "You're being dramatic." I hung up. I sat in that parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. I thought about calling off the wedding, but then I thought about the deposits, the invitations already sent, the guests who'd booked flights, my parents who'd saved for months to help pay for this wedding, who were so proud their daughter was marrying a doctor. And then I thought about all the other women, the women who'd been forced into this, who'd been told it was normal, who'd been silenced. I thought about the women who'd come after me, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to run. I was going to burn it all down. I called my best friend, Lena. She's a paralegal at a criminal defense firm, sharp as hell, and the kind of friend who shows up with wine and a legal pad when you're in crisis. She came over that night. I told her everything. She didn't interrupt, she just listened, taking notes. When I finished, she looked up. "This is assault, Sarah. Legally, morally, it's assault. Can I press charges? If you have evidence, yes, but you need proof. Otherwise, it's your word against theirs." "What kind of proof?" "Recording, documentation, witnesses." I looked at my phone. "What if I record it?" Lena paused. "New Jersey is a one-party consent state. That means you can legally record a conversation you're part of without the other person's knowledge. But Sarah," she grabbed my hand, "if you do this, you need to be prepared. They'll come after you. Hard." "I know." "Do you?" I met her eyes. "I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it so this never happens to another woman." Lena nodded slowly. "Then let's build a case." We spent the next 3 hours researching. Virginity testing is condemned by the WHO as a violation of human rights. It's banned in several countries. In the US, it's not federally illegal, but it can be prosecuted as assault, sexual abuse, or battery depending on the circumstances. We found case law, precedents, statutes. Lena helped me draft a timeline, a list of witnesses, a safety plan. And she gave me a phone number. "This is Patricia Delgado. She's a criminal defense attorney who specializes in assault cases. If this goes to trial, you'll need her." I saved the number. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, mentally preparing for what I was about to do. Tuesday came. Arjun picked me up at 10 a.m. He was quiet, tense. He wouldn't look at me. We drove in silence through Newark, past strip malls and gas stations, until we reached a small medical plaza tucked between a check-cashing place and a dollar store. The clinic had no sign, just a number on the door. Inside, the waiting room was empty. No receptionist, no other patients, just Kavita, Rakesh, and two older women I'd never met. Arjun's aunts, I realized. Witnesses. "Come," Kavita said. She led me down a narrow hallway. The walls were beige and water-stained. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The air smelled of disinfectant and something sour I couldn't place. I had my phone in my jacket pocket. Audio recording app open. Audio running. We entered a small room. No medical equipment, no charts, no certifications on the wall. Just an exam table with stirrups, a folding chair, and a single overhead light. A woman in scrubs entered. She was maybe 50, with tired eyes and no name tag. "Lie down," Kavita said. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. "I want to see her credentials," I said. Rakesh stepped into the doorway. "You don't get to make demands." The two aunts moved to either side of me, blocking the door. "Lie down," Kavita repeated. I didn't move. One of the aunts grabbed my arm. Her grip was tight. "This is assault," I said. My voice was louder than I intended. "You're assaulting me," Kavita said coldly. "You agreed to this." "I didn't." "Then leave. The wedding is canceled." I looked past them, into the hallway. Arjun was standing there, hands in his pockets, staring at the floor. "Arjun," I said, my voice cracked. "Please, help me." He didn't move. He didn't even look up. I climbed onto the table. The woman in scrubs pulled on latex gloves. No explanation, no consent form, no questions. Kavita stood at the foot of the table, arms crossed. "Spread your legs," the woman said. I closed my eyes. I won't describe in detail what happened next. I'll just say this. It hurt. Not just physically, though it did hurt. It was invasive and rough and completely unnecessary. But it hurt in a deeper way. It hurt because I'd been reduced to an object, a thing to be inspected, approved, purchased. And the whole time, they talked about me like I wasn't there. Kavita. "Good. No issues." Rakesh. "As expected, we raised our son well." One of the aunts, laughing. "Imagine if she wasn't pure. The shame." The woman in scrubs. "She's intact. You can proceed with the wedding." I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. When it was over, I sat up slowly. My hands were shaking. Kavita smiled. "Now you're ready to be a bride." I got dressed in silence. In the car, Arjun finally spoke. "I'm sorry it had to be like that." I turned to him. "Had to be?" "You know what I mean." "No, I don't." He sighed, gripping the steering wheel. "Sarah, in a few days, none of this will matter. We'll be married, we'll move on." "You think I'm going to move on from this?" "What do you want me to say?" I looked at him, really looked at him, and I realized I didn't know him at all. "Nothing," I said. "Don't say anything." I went home. I locked the door. I sat in my bathroom floor and played the recording. 12 times. Every word, every threat, every laugh. Clear, undeniable, damning. That night, I called Patricia Delgado. I played her the recording. She was silent for a long time. Then she said, "This is one of the strongest assault cases I've ever heard. Are you ready for what comes next?" "Yes." "This will destroy your engagement. His family will retaliate. You'll be in the media. You'll be called a whore, a liar, a homewrecker." "I know." "And you still want to do this?" "I have to." Patricia's voice softened. "Then let's go to war." The next morning, I went to the police station. I met with Detective Maria Torres, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a kind smile. I gave her the recording, the names, the address of the clinic. She listened to the whole thing without speaking. When it ended, she looked at me with something like awe. "You recorded this knowing what they'd do to you?" "I recorded it so they couldn't do it to anyone else." Torres smiled. "You're incredibly brave." We filed a criminal complaint that afternoon. Assault, battery, conspiracy to commit sexual abuse. Torres told me the DA's office would review the case and it might take time, but I didn't have time. The wedding was in 3 days. I need something to happen at the wedding. Torres raised an eyebrow. You want us to arrest them at your wedding? Yes. She laughed, then realized I was serious. That's bold. They think they got away with it. They think I'm broken. I want them to know they were wrong. Torres looked at the recording file on her computer. Then she nodded. I'll talk to my captain. The wedding was on a Saturday in early September. The venue was a luxury estate in Short Hills. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, a ballroom that could seat 300 guests. I arrived early, got my hair done, my makeup, put on the dress Kavita had chosen, a traditional red and gold lehenga that weighed 15 pounds. I looked like a bride. I felt like a soldier. Arjun texted me that morning. Can't wait to see you. Love you. I didn't respond. The ceremony started at 4 p.m. I walked down the aisle alone. My parents were in the front row, beaming with pride. They had no idea what was about to happen. Arjun stayed at the altar in a sherwani, looking nervous and hopeful. The officiant began. Traditional vows, prayers, rituals I'd practiced but didn't understand. Kavita and Rakesh sat in the front row, smiling. The 2 aunts were there. The woman from the clinic wasn't. She'd been smart enough to stay away. The officiant reached the part about objections. If anyone here has reason why these 2 should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. It's a formality. No one ever objects. I raised my hand. The room went silent. 200 people staring. Arjun's face went white. Sarah, what are you... I pulled out my phone. I object, I said clearly, because 3 days ago, this man's family assaulted me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Kavita stood up. She's lying. She's mentally unstable. I held up my phone. I have proof. I pressed play. The audio filled the room. My voice shaking. This is assault. You're assaulting me. Kavita's voice cold. Lie still. This is tradition. The woman in scrubs. Spread your legs. Rakesh. She's intact. Good. One of the aunts, laughing. Imagine if she wasn't pure. The room erupted. People shouting, some guests stood, others covered their mouths, a few started crying. Arjun grabbed my arm. Turn it off! I pulled away. I also called the police, I said. They're outside. Right on cue, the double doors at the back of the ballroom opened. 4 officers entered, led by Detective Torres. She walked straight to Kavita. Kavita Mehta, you're under arrest for assault and conspiracy to commit sexual abuse. Chaos. Kavita screamed. Rakesh tried to argue. The aunts tried to run. All 4 were arrested on the spot. Arjun just stood there, frozen. I looked at him one last time. You could have stopped this, I said. You chose not to. Then I walked out. 6 people were arrested that day. Kavita, Rakesh, the 2 aunts, the woman in scrubs, the clinic owner. Arjun wasn't charged, but his hospital launched an ethics investigation. His residency was suspended pending review. The story hit the news within hours. Bride calls police mid-wedding after forced virginity test. My name was everywhere. My phone exploded. Reporters, lawyers, activists, strangers sending threats and strangers sending support. Anonymous messages calling me a whore, a homewrecker, a traitor to my culture. But also messages from women. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Women who'd gone through the same thing. Women who had been told it was tradition. Women who had been silent for years. Women who said I gave them hope. I didn't leave my apartment for a week. Lena stayed with me, screened my calls, made sure I ate. Patricia handled the legal fallout. And Detective Torres kept me updated. The DA's office moved fast. They had the recording, they had my testimony, they had the clinic's records. It was an open and shut case. The trial took place 8 months later. I testified for 4.5 hours. I described everything: the demand, the clinic, the assault, the recording. The defense tried to argue consent, that I'd agreed, that it was a cultural practice protected by religious freedom. Patricia destroyed them. If she consented, Patricia said, holding up a transcript of the recording, then why does she say this is assault 6 separate times? The defense had no answer. Arjun was called as a witness. He sat on the stand looking small and broken and admitted he knew about the exam, that he didn't stop it. Why not? Patricia asked. Because I didn't want to lose my family. So you let them assault your fiancé? He didn't answer. The jury deliberated for 2.5 hours. Guilty on all counts. Kavita got 3 years, Rakesh got 2, the aunts got 18 months each, the clinic owner got 5 years and permanently lost her medical license. The cultural center that had been referring families to that clinic? Shut down, license revoked, under investigation for enabling abuse. But I didn't stop there. I partnered with a state senator who'd reached out after the trial. We drafted legislation criminalizing virginity testing in New Jersey. We called it Sarah's Law. It passed unanimously. 4 years later, I got an email from Arjun. Subject line: please. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. Sarah, I know I don't deserve your time. I know I failed you in every way that mattered, but I'm writing because I need your help. I've been trying to get my medical license reinstated. I completed my residency, went to therapy, cut off my family entirely. I thought that would be enough. But the medical board rejected my application. They said my involvement in what happened to you shows a lack of moral character, that I enabled abuse. If you could write a letter on my behalf, testify that I wasn't directly involved, it would change everything. I've changed, Sarah, I swear. I've spent 4 years trying to become the man I should have been that day. Please. Arjun. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back. Arjun, you stood in a hallway and watched them hurt me. You chose your family's approval over my humanity. You were a doctor. You took an oath to do no harm, and you did harm, not with your hands, but with your silence. You don't get to be a doctor. You don't get my forgiveness, and you don't get to use my pain to rebuild your career. Move on. Sarah. I hit send, and I never heard from him again. Today, I run a nonprofit called the Purity Project. We provide legal aid, counseling, and advocacy for survivors of virginity testing and other forms of cultural and gender-based violence. We've helped pass legislation in 6 states. We've trained 200 law enforcement officers. We've provided free legal representation to 43 survivors. I've spoken at the United Nations, at universities, at medical conferences. I've been interviewed by CNN, the New York Times, and the BBC. And I've received thousands of messages from women around the world who said I saved their lives. But here's what I want you to know. I'm not special. I was terrified. I wanted to run. I wanted to disappear. There were nights I couldn't sleep, days I couldn't eat, moments I thought I'd made a terrible mistake. But I didn't run. Because silence protects abusers, and I refused to be silent. If you're reading this, if you're going through something like I did, please know this. You don't owe anyone your body. You don't owe anyone your compliance, and you don't owe anyone your silence. Document everything, find people you trust, build your case, and fight. Not because it's easy, but because you deserve better. And so does every person who comes after you. I'm Sarah Reyes, and I called the police in the middle of my own wedding, not because I wanted revenge, not because I wanted attention, because I refused to let tradition be an excuse for violence. And I'd do it again. Every single time.